Welcome to Comic Wars. Tonight we're discussing the final match in round 3 between the feline Fatale, Captain Meow-Meow, and the agitating assassin, Wolf. Remember, the victor of each match is announced at the end during the outcome. So, without further ado, let's get into the overview. As usual, if we had a guest, this is where, or guests, of course, we would go and introduce the guests here, give a little details about them, and then go over their guesses for tonight's fight. However, there are no guests tonight. It's all good. So we'll be skipping through to the next part, which is the background details. This is where we go over some little details. Sometimes they're a bigger detail than one might guess. There's some background details such as height and weight and even sometimes in the personality, or even sometimes they had some training, or there's some kind of combat experience that we detail there because it's not that big when it comes into their actual skill sets. But there's sometimes some details in the background that do matter towards the outcome of this fight. After that, then we're going to get into the feats. This is where we're going to take a look at each character's greatest strength, durability, speed and agility, martial prowess, ingenuity, gadgets, powers, all of that. We're going to look at their greatest feats in those categories. We're going to break each and every single one of those down. And then up to that, we get into data analysis. And this is where we're actually going to analyze every little detail about said feats. What's going to make them so intriguing? What's going to make them so powerful in combat? What's going to make them such an advantage against the opponent? And really what these feats mean. For example, somebody gets hit by a car, gets up and is able to run and fight and all this. What does that mean? How fast is the car going? What kind of damage did that character sustain and kept going? Or how hard somebody hits when they're able to consistently knock somebody out or turn somebody into red mist when they hit them. How hard are they hitting? What does that mean when it takes what kind of toll does it take on the body of the user? Things like that. And then after that, then we get into the character pros and cons. This is going to be where we analyze the strengths and weaknesses against each of the combatants between each other, and of course, sometimes the weaknesses they may share or they may hold for themselves. And then that's where we would go and get into the guess analysis. But, sometimes this is where they would want to go and change their guesses, things like that. Further discuss a little bit more about the combatants and what their thoughts on each combatant. And after that, then we get into the part where everybody is looking forward to, which is the outcome. This is where we're going to break every single thing down. What kind of scenarios it would take for one party to win against the other? Is it a possibility? And then we have to look at what kind of weaknesses would have to be exploited for the opposing side to even win, or the losing side. So we break it down and we look at a percentage. What percent of the time would fighter A beat fighter B, and why? Alright, so let's get into our first combatant tonight, which is Captain Meow-Meow. Both characters tonight are hailing from Crowworks Comics, soon to be Crowworks Entertainment. But they both hail from Rain City, which is where majority of the vigilantes and superhero type characters are from in the Crowverse. Captain Meow-Meow's real name is Amber Norris. She's 21 years old as of 2010. She's 5 foot 8 inches tall. Why it's not loading up right now. She's 140 pounds, and she's a veterinarian assistant. Her area of operation is Rain City. However, she does travel outside of it every now and then and does use her powers to combat against evil forces outside of it. And when I say evil forces, her main opponents and antagonists are poachers and illegal game hunters, fur traders, things like this. She goes after those that are killing wildlife that really just for sport and illegally. But she goes after those that are killing for sport just to kill. She doesn't like that at all. That comes from a lot of different things, but it does come from her power primarily. She's able to commune with any of the I'm not sure what they're called, but it's essentially a species of animal that cats and mongoose and all this all hail from. And we are definitely having some internet issues tonight. As for her personality, well, she's very focused, she's intelligent, and she's passive-aggressive and sarcastic, and she's incredibly, overly critical of herself. Mostly about Daniel Parker going missing, almost believing it's her fault, because she didn't stand up for him. She didn't try and rescue him. Didn't do what she could to possibly change his mind about leaving. And it wasn't leaving her, it was another girl. It was actually somebody she used to be friends with, but besides the point. As for some miscellaneous information, well, she's deeply in love with Daniel Parker, and she's a supporter of Crow. Keep in mind, same guy, but she doesn't know that. And she has a cat named Leonard, who you can see on her back currently. So what kind of feats does she have, though? Well, we've been over it before. She's got this. Her biggest strength feat is the fact that she's got the focus of a tiger. She's capable of lifting approximately 1,200 pounds, and she has a swipe force of roughly 23,622 pounds per square inch. Would not want to get hit by her. That hits ridiculously hard. And it's a swipe, so keep this in mind. She's looking to rip something apart if she can. As for durability, well, she's got a leather and Kevlar bodysuit. It's Kevlar weave right below the leather. It's attached, but it's Kevlar underneath. And as for her speed and agility, well, she uses the focus of the cheetah. She can sprint up to 60 miles an hour. That's her top speed. Her max speed she only hit so far. And we'll break down these focuses here in a second. As for her combat capabilities, well, she doesn't have any martial prowess at all. No martial arts training whatsoever. So think of her more or less like a brawler. She's kind of swinging, doing what she can. But she fights like a cat, if you will. Feliformia, to be specific. As for her ingenuity, well, if she's in dire straits, she will allow herself to go feral. She loses complete control. Think of a bloodlust, but animalistic bloodlust. So she's looking to kill, and nothing but. Sense can be knocked into her. It usually takes Leonard to be able to do so, but she can lose control, and she will allow herself to lose control and go feral, which is both a strength and a weakness for her. We'll explain later. As for her powers, she's got enhanced senses. This includes sight, hearing, taste, smell. She's got a bit of a sixth sense, if you will, so she can feel when somebody's like swinging at her. If she were to go blindfolded, this is how this breaks down. She can feel it. Literally, she can feel it. So it's not quite a spider sense per se, but she can feel incoming attacks. So she sees it, she feels it in real time, so she's still got to go and be able to deal with it, but she does have enhanced senses. And she focuses, by focusing on a specific Feliformia species, allows her to gain that species' traits, i.e. the tiger gives her a great strength feat. Everything we've been looking at with her focus on tiger, if she's not in feral state, she can only focus on one at a time. So keep this in mind when it comes into it. But she can refocus. And then her next focus is that of a cheetah, which gives her the speed, sprinting 60 miles an hour. And then she can focus on a mongoose, gives her ridiculous agility. And she's basically immune to all poisons. In most cases, it looks more or less like it's bordering on immunity. But poisons don't do much to her. There's certain poisons that can kill her and still harm her, but it's way less damage dealing to her than it would be just normal average guy or girl. And then after that, she can control nearby Feliformia to attack, and this is up to 10 feet away. So she has kind of like a frequency, if you will. She can just literally telepathically control them and tell them to attack. And she can clearly see in the dark and can enter the feral state, which relinquishes all control to her primal animalistic side, allowing her to fully utilize the traits from every Feliformia. As for some gadgetry she's got, well, her equipment, she comes equipped with some claw gloves, which is tungsten claws. And she's got caltrops. She's got her armored claw boots, which are tungsten claws and carbon fiber shin and foot plating. So, her legs are well guarded, and she's got claws. So, there's that. But what about her opponent? That's what we need to get into next. What about her opponent? So, once again, hailing from Crowworks Comics, soon to be Crowworks Entertainment, it's Wolf. And his real name is Curtis Fox. He is 20 years old, and that is as of 2010. He's 5'11" tall. He's 180 pounds. His occupation was vigilante and assassin. I don't want to necessarily say one particularly for hire, just for anybody. He's not going to go work for like drug dealers, for instance. You know, he's very specific on who he's going to work for. As for his areas of operation, well, he primarily works over in Rain City now. As for his personality, he's cocky, he's arrogant, often underestimates others, aggressive, and never gives up. And just little tidbits of information here. He's best friends with Daniel Parker and Antonio Rolfe, which are equivalent of Crow and Debug. He's also got a one-sided rivalry with Crow. Think of it this way, like an older brother that a younger brother has a rivalry with, and the older brother just kind of just like, oh, that's cute, you know, but the younger brother is like, I'm going to be better than you. Oh, yeah, well, you got me this time, but I'm going to get you next time. And it's really serious, but only one side sees it that way. Think of it that way. Like I said, there's some things about this that you'll see why. The background does come up for this one for sure, and I'll explain. As for his feats, well, his greatest strength feat, well, he's got some very strong sword swings. He's capable of slicing through the barrel of a mercenary's tank, and he did that during after his training with the Death Gods, and he was on a mission to the Mound of Megiddo over in Israel. He was there to go and track down a relic, and well, he had to sneak in, and well, the only way he could, avoid getting caught was by taking out a tank and a few soldiers. And he did just that. With a couple handguns, which he didn't really even use. He just used his sword to silently kill them. I know, pretty intense. I know. This is where things get pretty intense. So, he's got a pretty powerful sword swing, if you will. As for his durability, well, he's taken a single hit from Reaper. And keep in mind, it's the same guy who is strong enough to rip car doors off with a single hand. And he was able to still move after. Not able to fight, but he was able to still move. And he's got carbon fiber weave plate armor. So, it's very similar armor to Crow. As for his speed and agility, well, he's more acrobatic in combat than Crow, so he moves around a lot more, but he's easily able to evade multiple attacks at the same time from Shinigami, which are essentially the new gods of death. They're thugs, if you will. They're soldiers. So they're highly trained, but they're nothing compared to their leaders. And he's also evaded automatic gunfire from roughly 5 feet away, so he's very agile. As for combat capabilities, well, he's got training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, Karate, Kendo, fencing, and he's a master marksman and master swordsman. And his swordsmanship goes to very, very great lengths. He's mimicked and perfected several anime swordplay techniques. He's what you would consider a weeaboo. When it comes to anime, he loves it. He's a huge fan. So especially the ones with swords and all this, he aims to perfect these techniques and learn them. So that way when he uses them in combat, he's able to go and throw his opponents off. And if there's a group of them, it really throws them off. Just a more grandeur types of, if he has to be in close combat, he's going to make it one to remember. As for some ingenuity, well, he tries to keep fights at a distance. Always attempts to anger his opponents to keep them focused and irrational. If you think about it this way, it's when, like, for instance, a bully will antagonize somebody they're picking on into coming into a fight with them blindly. So taking those just, I need to go and shut this guy up type of thing. Yeah, it's not a good thing. But he also utilizes his grapnel launchers to keep the opponents confused and at as much of a distance as possible. Keep in mind he relies on guerrilla warfare, and so this plays in very, very key to how he fights. He wants to keep everybody at a distance. But on top of that, well, he's immune to sprays and gases because he's got a rebreather attached to his mask, or helmet, if you will. And he relies on stealth to ensure quick victories rather than prolonging combat. And just in case he needs to, he does have a glide cape, so things like getting down from a very huge height, he can actually use his glide cape to get around. But he's also got it so he can dive bomb if he needs to. So a lot of this plays into his acrobatic style of fighting. So he doesn't have the same type of cape as Crow. It's just a glide cape. It isn't weighted, so he can't wrap around and use it to the same skill as Crow. But he does have the capability to glide, and his cape is a bit heavier because he's got the extra cape added to his head and the shoulders, so he can actually perform a dive bomb. Like I said, this can play key factors when it comes to fights with him, and it has already. So what else do we got? Well, now we got his gadgets. Just like Crow, he comes equipped with 5 smoke pellets and 5 flash pellets. Smoke pellets, they give a huge puff of smoke that allows him to actually perform stealth combat up close when his opponents know he's there. So it's got flash pellets, which are they're just treated just like a flashbang. He's got his Predator Wakizashi. It's a serrated tungsten carbide blade, and it's serrated. You can't really tell from the drawing here. It's not as it's supposed to look like. It's just a straight Wakizashi, but it's not. It's literally got very, very tiny serrated edge on it. So when he's cutting through things, it's ripping, tearing. It's more painful than just a regular sword slash. So hopefully one doesn't he doesn't land a strike and not be able to go all the way through, because now when he tears away from it, tears down, he's going to be able to make that wound even worse. He also comes equipped with 2 Colt 1911 handguns. And so keep in mind, they've got 12 hollow point ammunition in their magazines each. So he's already got 12 hollow point 9mm ammo. On top of that, he also comes equipped with 1 magazine, which is 12 ammunition, 12 bullets of napalm ammo, 12 bullets in one magazine of acid ammo, 1 magazine, 12 bullets of explosive ammunition, 24 extra bullets, or 2 magazines of hollow point ammo, and then he's got his 2 gauntlet grapnel launchers. Much like Crow, it's standard issue for former Death Gods. And some of the new Gods of Death. So, what do you guys think so far? What are we thinking so far? We go and we look at the data. This is something we have to look at. Okay, so let's take a look at a few things here. So we're going to go look at the feats of Captain Meow-Meow real quick. Her strength, her focus, 23,622 pounds per square inch. That's huge. That's damage you don't really get back up from very easy. But she can also sprint 60 miles an hour. So what does that mean, 60 miles an hour? She can go and outpace a car. You look at the average speed cars are going, especially in like downtown Rain City, or in just throughout the world. I mean, generally you're seeing a bit slower than 60 miles an hour. Now that doesn't count the freeway, but she can keep up with some of the cars out there. Think when you're going up and down, the freeway. Look at the speed limit. She's going 60 miles an hour, and she has the stamina to go for it for a while. But that's pretty insane. Imagine something coming at you 60 miles an hour, and then reverting over to a focus of the tiger and just swiping. Now you've also got that extra kinetic force from the speed. that's going to like easily double that right there. That force is going to be intense. But, same time, her feral side, if she were to use that, now she's got the cheetah, the tiger, and the mongoose. So she's going to be able to dodge extremely well. But she uses her claws, and that's the big thing here. She uses her claws, she can climb up buildings. There's certain things she can't climb. But there's other ways she can get around. And keep this in mind. We've only seen her be able to lift approximately 1,200 pounds, but she has the focus of the tiger. She can lift 1,200 pounds. That's her leg strength too. Which means she can jump at increased heights. She's going to have kicks that are going to be enhanced. You've got all sorts of things. This is going to increase her strength. Sure, she gets ridiculous here with just her strength. She can go from that to another focus. She just has to refocus. Now, she's a very focused individual, and that's the big thing to take away from this. She's focused. She can switch her focus anytime. Very, very easily. She now knows, okay, well, I need to go and focus on speed. Let's go for speed. Let's focus on the cheetah. Bam! She's going. It takes a second to activate, but that's just how quick her focus has to be. She's just got to go and just change her focus onto something else, and now she's got that focus. But you've also got tungsten claws, which are very, very strong. So it's not going to just be easily broken through. She's also got her carbon fiber shin and foot plating. So her durability is there. She has some durability. She's going to be able to withstand gunshots into her shins and those plating. It'll hurt, but she can withstand it. So you can think about that. Not to mention, remember, she does have armored claw boots, so her boots do have claws. She can literally shred with her feet as well. So, just a few things to consider. But then you've also got some feats from Wolf that are rather interesting. This Predator Wakizashi, it's also tungsten. It's a serrated tungsten carbide blade, so that blade's not breaking very easy. Then you look at his strength. Capable of slicing through the barrel of a mercenary's tank. You look at most modern tanks around that time, that's solid. And he's capable of slicing through it. He's got a very, very strong sword swing. And most swordsmen can tell you it's not about physical strength necessarily when it comes to cutting through things. It does take some, for sure. But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it's about the position of the blade. It's about the sharpness of the blade. It's the technique of the swing itself. Because there's people that can get sword swings that literally create minor vacuums in the air. Just brief, but they can create the vacuum just from the unsheathing. There's that. Minor little vacuums. Like I said, it's nothing huge. But this has happened. We've seen this. Go watch these feats of swordsmen while this. You see it does occur. So, but he's strong enough and is able to slice right through tank cannons. This is insane. But he's also not really, he's not a slouch in really any area. So let's just jump into the next part here. Let's go and get into data analysis. Well, we go into background. Now, this is where we have to go and really look hard. What does that mean in the background that we're looking for? What are we looking for here? So let's take a look. Look at the background. Captain Meow-Meow's greatest strengths here in her background are going to be in her focus. She's also intelligent, but she's passive aggressive, and there's not a whole lot that's really going to get played into this. Now, they don't know each other. So one couldn't assume, okay, they know each other, so this is going to be an easy one. She's overly critical of herself, and she blames herself for Daniel Parker going missing. And then with Wolf, him being a best friend of Daniel Parker, teasing her about it. You won't be seeing that here, unless her mask comes off. But even then, by him doing that, he outs who he is. Which means she could stay focused. But she would also, and this is a fight where I would say she would absolutely have to have Leonard around. She would need to have Leonard for his ability to snap her out of being feral, because this is where things can go a little sideways real quick for her. It's both a strength and a weakness for her, as we've described in other shows as well with her. She's a unique character because she has both a strength and a weakness in her feral capability. But we're going to get into this in a second. This is where we need to focus on. She's a very, very high focusing capability here. It's one of the few characters where focus is actually a big deal here. But she's intelligent, so she knows, okay, my opponent is probably going to try and get in my head as best they can. If they're talking a lot, they're going to try and get in my head somewhere. So she'll be figuring that out pretty quick. So what does that mean for Wolf, though? Well, Wolf, he's cocky. He's a little bit bigger than her. He's arrogant. And he often underestimates others. Now, keep that part in mind. He underestimates. So you have to look at things. Why would somebody that's taller and bigger look at somebody else and be like, yeah, you're just going to be a joke. This is easy. He's also aggressive. He's going to be looking at her as weaker. She's smaller. He's got the weapon. She's got some claws. And he's going to be looking at like, okay, I'm going to keep the distance. It's going to be an easy fight. So he's going to kind of take it easy. And this is where his problem is he'll often, if he underestimates somebody, what's he going to do? I'm going to be able to go and do this just real easy. But he also relies on stealth combat. So he's going to try and close it, or not close the distance, but distance himself and just go for the instant kills. Is he going to be able to do this? Well, that's where this gets into it. Personality-wise, I'd say he's actually the weaker of the two, because he underestimates others. Instead of analyzing his opponent, he's just going to go and just straight up underestimate. It's going to give him a disadvantage in the beginning, so he'll always have that disadvantage in the very, very beginning. Plus, he's aggressive, so he's going to get to that vantage point as quick as possible and just try and just nail her down. He's got a weakness there. It's not a big weakness, but it's a weakness. And because she's so focused, she's going to be analyzing very quick and looking, okay, this guy's trying to close the distance. Why? Oh, he's got firearms. Okay, well, he's got firearms. Now we have to go and try and figure some things out. Now, I didn't say she's highly intelligent. She's intelligent. She doesn't compare to people like SteamTech or Crow. In some cases, she's closer to Crow, but she's not really, she doesn't hit the same tier as him. Overall, there's areas where she's just going to outclass him, but it's still one of those things. This guy, we're not looking at an intelligent fighter per se. You're looking at somebody that's going to be, he never gives up, and he's gonna analyze. That's going to happen. He's cocky, arrogant, he often underestimates, and he's aggressive. So the fights are going to be, gotta kill, gotta go right for the kill. So it's a weakness. As for the strengths, this is where they're about evenly matched. I would dare say that overall, she's better. So I'm going to give the positive to her, but it's not by much. So she's already got a lead on this. Now, we don't look at points per se, because that's not how this needs to be analyzed. It comes down to capabilities. But durability, now this is where things get interesting. Because now you have to look at what does she come equipped with. She's got her leather and Kevlar bodysuit plus her armored claw boots and her claw gloves. She's got some protection. But we've never really seen a whole lot in combat from her. We know we've seen some, but not a whole lot. And those that she has taken on, they're nothing really that's going to be a big threat to her. They're people that don't have superpowers. They're not trained assassins. Not what we've seen so far. Where we left off last time with Rain City, or Perspectives from Rain City, there was a a big game hunter that was actually coming to Rain City to take her out. Big old hit on her. I have to spoil something. She was able to take him out. This is a guy who goes from a distance. Did she come out unscathed? No, she got hit. She got damaged pretty bad, but she was able to find him. Now, granted, this guy was also wanted, and Crow had to intervene as well. So I had to give that story just so I can explain this, because we did leave off without an actual answer on how that fight went down. So I do apologize, but that's why I'm going to have to give a spoiler here. Yes, she did take him out. Crow helped her a little bit on being able to kind of just get in close enough. Put it that way. Could he have killed her on his own? He possibly could have. But this is also somebody who is going for sniping. And the first hit he was able to nick her. That was it. He didn't, and he was able to get her a couple more times, but it was mostly nicks. So nothing too serious, but she was able to go and figure out where he was at and get to him and then take him out. But when it comes to durability, well, she's taken some bullet wounds. But then we have to look at Wolf. His durability is shown a bit more. He was able to tank a hit from Reaper, but he was only able to really just run away after that. He was able to still move and get away. That was all he could do. That's getting hit with the equivalent of roughly something around what she got hit with, or what she hits with. So when it comes down to it, this is where things are going to be kind of interesting. His durability does outweigh her. And by a good amount, but it's nothing like, oh, okay, like it greatly surpasses her. No, it surpasses. His one's actually causing the actual damage, like, of blood loss. While the other one is just like, oh, cracked ribs and things like this. It's messing him up. But yeah, it's not too big past that. As for speed and agility, well, he's evaded automatic gunfire from roughly 5 feet away. This is where we need to break it down again. We have speed, so the ability to close distance, versus agility, so evasiveness. Comes to overall movement capabilities, she wins. That's literally no comparison. This is where you get the double plus again. But then when it comes to evasiveness, she has to use her focus of the mongoose. So this is where things get a little closer, but he's been able to avoid automatic gunfire at 5 feet away. She's still got that agility. Now, the thing is, what her agility gets up to, it's ridiculous. Plus, on top of that, with her enhanced senses, she can feel it coming. She's going to be able to evade those gunfire and all this. So they're roughly going to be pretty evenly matched. So we're just going to go and put, I'm going to put draw for agility. He doesn't have enhanced senses, but he's that fast. So he's got a reaction time that's greater than hers, or around the same. That's how that breaks down. So they're roughly about a draw for that. But she, in the speed category, she outclasses him. For martial prowess, he outclasses her entirely. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. She gets her butt kicked on that one. As for ingenuity, well, she relies on, at her worst, she has to use her feral state. Which, this is where we get a plus and a minus. So we have to go with, overall, she loses, but at the same time, she can win with it. So he wins, but it depends on the scenario. When the feral state's being used. Close range, he won't be able to close distance, or he won't be able to go and get distance between her if they're close enough. She can close that distance way too quick, and evade everything he's got, and then just tear him to shreds. As for gadgetry, well, it's pretty obvious. The gadgets, she doesn't have gadgetry that compares. As for powers, well, that's where we have to look at it. He doesn't have any powers. So we're not going to even really analyze because that goes into the strength, speed, and agility. So I'm just not even going to include powers on that because we've already covered them. So let's break this down. Who do you guys think wins? Do you think it's the superpowered Captain Meow-Meow, or do you think it's the agitator, Wolf? If we were to break this down to a numbers game, then they'd be evenly matched. But it's not a numbers game. Now, like I said before, this is where this gets into an interesting part here. Wolf is going to underestimate right off the bat. Every single time. This is a guaranteed he will underestimate. But he's going to also want to go and close the distance, or, close the distance, but get the distance and then just start firing away. Now, this is where it depends on where it's located. If this fight is in Rain City, no. He's going to have an advantage. He's going to have the height advantage at all times. It's not going to go so well for her. She will be reliant on her feral state. And even then, feral state, you're looking at about a 40% chance to win in Rain City. However, if we're looking at winning, for instance, in an open area, well, she wins every time. He can't keep the distance. He's not fast enough. Her movement speed alone is going to be too outrageous for him. She goes feral right in the beginning, he loses. She's going to realize this. There's nothing he can do. Going feral is going to be the option. She wins 100% of the time in that case. He'd have to switch his ammo, and it would depend on the distance they're at. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting here. So now you start putting animals into the mix. You start throwing Feliformia in there. He's going to have to be fighting them off too. Throw them in a zoo. She's got an advantage. She's going to move through that zoo real quick and have every single one of them attack him. Every single one of the Feliformia in there. She'll break them out with no problem, rip right through those cages. They can talk to her. They're going to obey her because they have to. As we saw with Kipo, we know that she can even control characters like Kipo. Because, genetically, they're part Feliformia. Therefore, she can control her. And all it takes is part genetic. She can control. One could break down even that if they just have the genetics. Well, he doesn't, but it doesn't make a difference. Anywhere there's Feliformia, she's got access to allies. So, you look at it, as close as this battle is, she could rip through him. And it strictly depends on the scenario. And overall, the majority of the scenarios, you throw him in the woods, that's not a good idea for him to be in there. She's going to be able to get to trees and go in between. She's also going to have the strength in her legs, and so she's going to be able to still go faster than normal in the tiger state, in the focus of tiger. She'll still be able to go faster than average Joe. She's not going to be able to go 60 miles an hour, but she'll be able to go fast. But she's got those enhanced senses, so she can still feel it coming in. You put them in a dark environment, she's got night vision. He doesn't. His helmet doesn't come equipped with it, where we're at in the comic, where we left off. He doesn't have that. He's got the rebreather, he's got the lenses there, but he doesn't have everything else. Once he comes to terms with Crow and all this kind of stuff, and they go through their upgrades and all, so that's when you start getting the better stuff. But I'm not going to get into that. But in this state, Captain Meow-Meow wins. It's somewhat close. I would argue it's probably... about a 70% chance or so, 70 to 75% chance Captain Meow-Meow will win. And it's all scenario based. Where is the battlefield? If it's open, she wins. If it's in a wooded area, a jungle, she wins. If it's in a big city, he wins. If it's an area where there's like high cliffs, he wins. But even then, that depends. And also depends, are they in close distance? If it's in like a watery environment, well, that's where things get interesting too, but she wins in majority of these scenarios here. So, for tonight, our winner is Captain Meow-Meow. And she will be taking on Friday, she'll be taking on Nightwing in one of the last fights we have this season. Thank you guys